Chris here, and I'm back with the UMIDIGI Z2, which may seem as a surprise to some of you because I wasn't particularly happy with that phone when I reviewed it because of the cameras that were not very good. But we have now the Z2 Pro version, which has the new Helio P60 from MediaTek. So that's the main reason why I'm actually looking at this phone. Not to torture myself, but to just take a look at the general performance of that new chipset, which is now paired up with a Mali G72 GPU instead of the Mali T880, has octa-cores, and overall it actually does perform very similar to the Snapdragon 660. So let's take a look at this one here, the UMIDIGI Z2 Pro. So this is what you get inside the box. You have the phone that is inside a case. It's a rubber case here with a texture to it. It's not too bad, a little bit on the cheap side, but of course it is better than nothing. We have your typical instruction manual, leaflet, warranty card, and SIM tool right here. 3.5mm headphone adapter because the phone is lacking a 3.5mm headphone jack. It's about the only thing it is actually lacking in. You have a red Type-C cable and then a 12-volt 1.5 amp quick charger. The phone weighs 166 grams, which is more or less the same weight as the UMIDIGI Z2, as expected. And the thickness is about 8.5 millimeters. That's without the cameras. The camera sticks out ever so slightly, bringing that now up to 8.8 millimeters. So the build of the phone, it does actually feel quite good. It has a bit of a Samsung Galaxy S7, S8 feel to it with the metal frame around the outside. We've got antenna lines, as you can see here. So the loudspeaker down the bottom, there's just one right here. The mic is here, and the Type-C port. So it does feel good in hand. There's no real faults at all with the build. You cannot fault it. Middle volume up and down and power buttons there. They do not rattle around, which is good. And along the top, we just have a secondary mic. So such a shame that they couldn't actually fit a 3.5mm headphone jack on this one. So the glass along the front, it does have 2.5D edges. And yes, it has a rather large notch, about the same size as the Xiaomi Mi 8. And just like the Z2 I looked at, it has a glass on the rear. We have the fingerprint reader. Now this fingerprint reader is a little slow. So my 2 days now of using it, it takes about 2 seconds to unlock. Now the camera at the rear, just like the Z2 that I reviewed, it doesn't seem to do anything. While the application, the camera app, the stock one with the Z2, didn't actually let you use the secondary camera or a bokeh mode to get your blurred backgrounds. It's now there, but it's fake because you put your finger over this taking photos as well and nothing comes out. The same goes with the front facing camera. The front cameras are the same, so we have an apparent 16 megapixel sensor alongside an 8 megapixel one, but same thing, take a selfie, block it, and it will not actually show up in the photo. So to me, the secondary cameras are actually fake, or they're just not even used. We have a tiny little earpiece, as you can see, and the call quality out of this earpiece, to me, is not very good. It is average or even below average. Our SIM tray, which is metal reinforced, will take either 2 nano SIMs or nano SIM and micro SD card. The phone ships with Android 8.1. We have a 128GB ROM. I will show you the speeds of that, but it's eMMC 5.1 spec and it's actually quite quick. 6GB of RAM, and the security patch level is from July the 5th, so it's a little dated now. Biggest change is, of course, the chipset. That's the only real major change here we have going from the Z2 to the Z2 Pro. And the reason why I am checking out this phone is I wanted to see just how the Helio P60 performs. So it's an octa-core CPU, and it does have the Mali G72 MP3. And benchmarks show us that it performs similar to the Snapdragon 660, which is great because this later on is going to be running in some of the tablets I review. The ROM performance is very good. It's really smooth. So we've got stock Android 8 and it's a stock launcher, and I really run into no problems using it over my 2 days. And the performance is something that it really does actually surprise me that it is good. Very fast animations as well. And when you're multitasking, you're swapping between various different apps, that all tends to be very smooth. I haven't really seen any slowdown or lag. Maybe now and then when you're really running a lot of things, but Chrome performance, or just reload the page, is a very smooth. The screen keeps up, the scrolling, the touch response from that screen as well is good, and no visible ghosting or any other negative effects there of the ROM. So overall, thumbs up for the performance of this ROM, that it is really quite quick and good, and one of the positive aspects of the UMIDIGI Z2 Pro. GPS works quite well. The accuracy is normally around 3 to 4. It doesn't lock onto all of the satellites, however. It seems to be something that the MediaTek chipsets do. Maybe it's for battery saving, who knows, but it is, to me, a little bit better than the Helio X20 series there. Now the internal storage, very quick here, so eMMC 5.1 spec, no problems here. That's not going to bottleneck the system. That is good news, and that's the Antutu score already that I have showed you. Now the 4G speeds are not too bad. This was my test this time around using UMIDIGI, not Orange that I typically run. So I'm getting speeds of around 30 and uploads about 20. Also on my Xiaomi Mi Max 3. So this is on par with other phones. Signal strength it seems to be good as well. The wireless too is not really a problem. That tops out about 344 megabits per second. That's the maximum speeds you'll get out of wireless 5G. So no surprises here, Widevine level 3. A lot of Chinese phones are not bothering getting the level 1 cert, so Netflix will only run in standard definition. Project Treble support is there because it is Android 8.1, however, no seamless updates with this particular mobile. Now out of the box, you don't get any real bloatware, and you get nothing from UMIDIGI, but you do get a lot of Google bloat. So they've put a lot of their applications on there, and that's the stock apps that you get when you first power it on. Now looking at the screen, there's no noticeable light leakage. There's a little bit of shattering you see around the notch, and yes, it does have a rather wide and tall notch here that is kind of annoying. So when you want to see your notifications, you want to see if you're connected up to 4G data and your battery percent, you must swipe down. Now that is very similar to the other phones I have used. For example, the Poco phone, the Mi 8 and the Mi 8 SE, you have to swipe down as well because this notch is limiting what the UI can display there with information. So no light bleed down, no light bleed and leakage with the IPS panel down at the bottom there. So it is a 6.2 inch screen, and what we have on here is a resolution of 1080 by 2246. The DPI used in the ROM is 480, and the gamma is a little off. It's around about 2.4. It should be about 2.2. Maximum brightness tops out at 471 lux, which is okay. Ideally, I like to see up around 500 and 600 on a mobile phone. Now, when you take a look at some real-world images, it's a nice screen. In some ways, I like it better than the Poco phone screen, but unfortunately, we don't have mirror vision, which is MediaTek's, you could say, display tweaking application. That allows you to change the white balance, and you can customize just a few things there. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, it is missing from this ROM. Hopefully, they have not dropped it with the new Helio P60. I think it's just more a case that UMIDIGI did not include it. Otherwise, quite a nice screen on this phone, I feel, for an IPS panel. So the phone does have face unlocking, and it tends to work okay, but it does take about 2 seconds. So I'm just going to retry again. I'll lock and do this again. I do have the camera and tripod in the way. Okay, didn't get it. See if it's going to try again. Okay, it got it then. One more attempt. Okay, but it seems to be like that all the time. It's very hit and miss. And the fingerprint reader tends to work a little bit better. But as you see, it is quite slow. So the phone is locked. I'll touch it. It unlocks. It's about 2 seconds. So you can see. So 1, 2. There we go. Now, what about music quality? So the Type-C to 3.5mm headphone jack tested it out, the adapter, of course, and the sound quality is okay, but definitely the Xiaomi 3.5mm headphone jacks sound to me a lot better. Now, there is the one loudspeaker down the bottom, so there's no secondary loudspeaker up the top, and nothing like that. That earpiece, I think, is just too small for that anyway, but I will give you a sample of how it sounds. It's okay, it could be a little bit louder. It does have a little bit of bass and treble. It's overall an average loudspeaker, but here's that sample. Now, where we are seeing a huge improvement here is the graphics performance. So this is up apparently about 30% over the previous generation, the Mali T880 GPU that they were using. So the G72 to me seems really good. I mean, I haven't seen any major slowdown or lag or anything. Now, this is PUBG on the HD setting and with the high frame rate. And it is really quite good, actually. When you zoom in, you're not going to see any noticeable real lag. And overall, looking very good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this particular chipset as well come through into the Chinese tablets that I often review in the channel. And another demanding game, this is Lineage 2 Revolutions. It's on the high setting and it's actually running really quite good. So the G72 GPU is a definite step up. Massive improvement over the Mali T880. And what about thermals? So after gaming now for 25 minutes, it gets warm to the touch, so getting up to about now 33 degrees. The hottest I have seen it is up to 35, and when you're charging it also gets very hot. Now the phone does have NFC, it also has 15 watt wireless charging. Unfortunately I could not test that out because I don't have a 15 watt wireless charger, but my other wireless charger, when placed on top, it did start to charge the phone. Now just like the Z2 that I tested out, the camera is by far the worst thing about this. So we've got not only secondary cameras that could be fake, they don't tend to use them. So we have that blurred bokeh mode, and all it does is just put a ring around the outside here. So it's fake bokeh. It's not using two lenses, it's not using software, stitching between the blurred background and then your subject. No, none of that here. What is also missing is 4K. So when you're in the video mode, actually I'll just go through into that now. So you've only got these modes here. Very limited camera. It's supposed to have 4K. Now you've got video quality up to, as you can see, 1080p. That is the maximum. You do have electronic image stabilization, but overall terrible cameras. As you'll see from these samples, they're not wonderful at all. Often it gets the white balance wrong, the colors wrong as well. So this is the front-facing camera with the electronic image stabilization enabled. Now the quality looks pretty good. The stabilization as well is actually doing quite a good job, considering I'm holding this handheld out from the front of my face here. And the other thing too to notice that the exposure sometimes has some rather dramatic changes, that you can actually see that exposure level changing. It's not so smooth the transition at times, but overall this front-facing camera quality is looking pretty good. I do like the stabilization. This is a video sample now with the rear camera 1080p with the electronic image stabilization enabled, which actually does work really well. I'll just demonstrate. I'm going to walk towards this palm tree right here. And that's good. So I do like the fact that we've got the electronic image stabilization. It also works with the front camera with that sample I showed you. And the focus tends to be okay. It actually doesn't really want to lock onto things. So you have to tap to focus. It doesn't seem to have an autofocus. There's no way to change that setting. And that is probably because the focus is really quite poor on this camera, I have found. Audio quality seems alright. Overall for 1080p the quality is not bad. It is just the focus really that is a problem, and there's no 4K that they advertise this phone being capable of. Okay, so to recap here, we do have a very good build quality. Metal frame around the outside, we have glass on the rear, curved edges, and overall the phone in hand does feel quite good. It feels like a premium build that it has on here. So the screen does have the notch, which is annoying. Now apart from that notch, this IPS panel has less light leakage, less light bleed than the Pocophone F1 that I recently took a look at, this one. So in a way, it actually has a better screen. It's about the same level of brightness as well as the Pocophone screen, but we cannot tweak the white balance, unfortunately. It doesn't have mirror vision on here, that application. So this phone has LTE band 20, it has wireless charging acclaimed up to 15 watts, and it also does not have a 3.5mm headphone jack. So it's got a lot of things going for it. Now, the Helio P60 is a much faster chipset than the previous Helio X generation. This one's a lot better, more powerful GPU. All the games I tested and played had smooth playable frame rates. You can't really say the same about the Helio X20, the X23s. They tend to be a little bit more choppy and laggy. With some games you have to run the lowest settings, or you just occasionally see more stutter. So a big improvement there in terms of performance, yes. Now, it does get quite warm when you game on it, and when you charge, it gets very hot when you charge it, and that was a little alarming to me, just how hot this got. But it did charge quite quickly, under 2 hours, which is good to see. Now, the battery on this, I'm able to burn through it really quite quickly. In my initial first tests, unfortunately, I don't have the results here because I plugged it in to download my photos, and that reset the battery stats there. But you're looking at only about 6 hours. Now, that was a very demanding test that I did. So what I was doing was mostly gaming. I was doing a little bit of YouTube streaming and just using it non-stop, and it tended to burn quite quickly, that battery, through it when you were gaming. So you'd start a game, you play for about half an hour, and you just lose like 25%, 20%. So not really that good. So I feel it's more of a day. Yeah, most people will definitely make it through a day. 2 days depends on your use, but probably not actually. So the face unlocking, I'll just demonstrate it here if I can. Okay, it's not detecting me now again. It's very hit and miss. There we go, it unlocked. You probably heard from that audio confirmation. The fingerprint reader, I'll demonstrate that now. So I'm about to touch it now, and it's about 2 seconds. That's not too bad. So there are a lot of nice things going for the phone, but the biggest for me, just like the Z2 Pro, is the fake cameras. Now, maybe that is a real camera sensor, the secondary camera, the 8 megapixel one. I don't think they're using it. Well, it doesn't seem to work at all. So what they're doing is, like other companies like Doogee, I call them dodgy, they're really faking the dual camera setup. It's not a proper dual camera setup. It does not have proper bokeh blurred background photos. It just puts a blur ring around the photo, and that is it. So it is fake. The photo quality of the images themselves are not good. We do not have 4K video for some reason, but even though the spec sheet, the press info says that yes, this can record 4K video, clearly it doesn't at the moment. Perhaps an OTA over the update will actually add that, who knows, but I don't believe it will. So really, this is not a mobile phone I feel to buy. I mean, yes, it's got a lot of good things, but you just spend 50 US more. For example, you've got yourself the Pocophone F1, which is a flagship phone that has a much better battery life, much better everything basically on that one, apart from maybe the screen. That is about it. So thank you so much for watching this review. My latest videos are right up here, and if you are interested, don't know why, and you want to see the Z2 review, that is also right up there. And I do hope to catch you in my next up and coming videos. Bye for now.